For our first story, we have update. My Sil female 31 disinvited my wife female 28 from her baby shower after a joke. My brother male 35 still wanted me male 30 to go. I was stuck in the middle. Original post, link, TLDR at the bottom. Thanks, everyone, for the replies. I think I read almost every single one. I really appreciated the different perspectives. First, some clarifications. 1. My wife is not a mean person. She made a joke in the moment, although I admit that it wasn't a great joke given the sensitivity of the situation. But she's genuinely one of the kindest, most caring people I know. That's one of the reasons I love her so much. 2. I don't think my brother did anything wrong by bringing up the topic. We were reminiscing about childhood, and he probably got nostalgic about having his little brother following him everywhere. My brother and I resemble each other quite a bit, though he's definitely the better looking one. Funny how that works. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm insecure. If anything, he's the outlier. He's one of those people who naturally turns heads. Even when we were younger, he'd get random girls hitting on him wherever he went. It was such a running joke in our family that even my parents would tease him about it. 3. The entire conversation lasted less than 5 minutes and escalated very quickly. I agree with the comments that all of us should have handled the situation better. But easier to say that in hindsight. In real time, things just got out of hand very quickly. I am sure that all of us regret what we said in the moment. Now for the actual update. I told my wife that I wouldn't go unless she was also invited. She immediately told me that she didn't want to be the reason I missed it and that I should go if I wanted to. She even said she'd be willing to apologize if my Sil was open to it, but that she wouldn't attend even if re-invited because she'd feel uncomfortable. I told her I appreciated that, but for me, it was both of us or none of us. Then I called my brother. And this is where I had to give him a lot of credit because I know he was upset. He had really wanted me there, and I could hear the disappointment in his voice. But instead of pushing, he just said, "I get it, man. Don't worry about it." I know that wasn't easy for him to say. He had to balance keeping things calm with his wife while also wanting his brother by his side. But he didn't guilt-trip me. Didn't try to convince me otherwise, he just let me make my choice. He even said, "Don't worry, we'll save you guys some food and I'll drop it off later." I offered to help with setup if he needed it, and told him to say I have COVID to avoid awkward questions. He just laughed and said, "Got it. You caught the world's shortest COVID just long enough for the baby shower but miraculously recovered the next day." Now, here's where things got a bit more complicated. My mom was not happy with him for not sorting this out earlier. She felt like he should have stepped in and made peace before it got to the point where my wife was uninvited. But my parents didn't say anything directly because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. I think that really weighed on him. He was already trying to navigate a tough situation, and now he had our parents silently judging him too. It put him in an impossible position trying to be a good husband, a good brother, and a good son all at once. A couple of days passed with no further drama. Then something unexpected happened. My wife got a call from my Sil. At first, my wife panicked, thinking she was about to get yelled at. But instead, they actually had a really good conversation. I overheard bits of it, including my wife saying, "No, you're gorgeous." Which made me laugh a little. After the call, my wife told me that Sil actually apologized first. She admitted that she'd been feeling really self-conscious about her looks during pregnancy and that my wife's joke had hit a sore spot. A little later, my brother called me. He told me that he had gently talked to Sil and helped her see that things had gotten out of hand. He also told me that knowing my wife was willing to apologize had made a huge difference. And then, he admitted something. He had wanted to fix things before the baby shower, but he knew his wife was already under a lot of stress. He didn't want to add more pressure on her while she was in the middle of planning. And honestly, I respect that. My Sil is one of those people who needs everything to be perfect: her look, my brother's look, the house, the decorations, etc. So I can understand the pressure she must have put on herself. And my brother knew that pushing her while she was stressed wouldn't have helped, so he waited. And after the event, when things calmed down, he quietly stepped in and fixed things. So where do things stand now? Things seem good on the surface. My wife and Sil made peace, and my brother and I are fine. My wife and I have decided to just be extra sensitive around Sil given what she is going through. All in all, the situation seems to have brought us somewhat closer together. The real takeaway. I have an amazing wife, but her humor could use some work. Also, my brother ain't too bad. Side note. Speaking of whom, my brother will probably never see this because he only uses Reddit for sports and news. Or so he says. But in the off chance he does, well, guess I'm busted. But since I have your attention, I'll admit something just this once. You are the best bro I could have asked for. That time you helped me for uni, I don't think you know how much it really meant to me. And when I was at a really low point, you stood by me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I've always appreciated that. Of course, I won't ever admit this in person and will forever deny I ever wrote this. TLDR. My Sil uninvited my wife from her baby shower after a joke. My brother wanted me to come anyway, but I refused to go without my wife. It caused some tension, but after a few unexpected conversations, things actually worked out and I came out of it appreciating my brother even more. Edit. Everyone keeps asking why my wife didn't apologize first. I thought I made it clear in the post, but maybe not. My wife was going to apologize but wanted to check if Sil was open to it. She had just been uninvited, so we had no idea whether my Sil was even open to talking to her. I had told my brother that my wife wanted to apologize. And if he had given us the green light, my wife would have absolutely called. Instead, my Sil decided to call once my brother told her that my wife wanted to apologize. That was her being the bigger person. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, I know you say it's embarrassing, but please tell your brother what you wrote here. Even if it's in a text. Nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, and telling the people in your life that you love them and appreciate them is always a good thing to do. Imagine if he wasn't around to tell you'd be wishing you had. Trust me. Our second commenter says, glad it worked out. Our third commenter says, OMG, loved this update. Happy for you all, smiley face. For our second story, we have my 68 female mother was given away for adoption. Now her 69 male, 72 male, 65 female bio siblings are asking her to care for her 96 female link 35 female grew up in the link. Born and raised in Austin, Texas. My father 70 male is Canadian and my mother 68 female is Greek. Every summer, we vacationed in Greece with my maternal grandparents. When I was 25, my parents retired and moved permanently to Greece after my mother inherited a house and a significant amount of money from her mother when she passed away. That's when things took a strange turn. During the last few months of my grandmother's life, my mom went to Greece to care for her, as she was no longer able to take care of herself. In her final days, my grandmother revealed a shocking secret: my mom was adopted. She wasn't the biological child of the parents who raised her. Instead, she was the daughter of my grandmother's cousin. Apparently, in Greece, decades ago, it was common for struggling families with many children to give a baby to a relative who couldn't have kids. My mother was devastated. She grieved the fact that she never knew her real family and that no one ever told her. After my grandmother passed, she decided to move to Greece to reconnect with the biological family she never met. She traveled to the region where her biological mother lived and met her for the first time, along with 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Her oldest brother was especially emotional because he vaguely remembered the day they gave my mother away as a baby. But from the start, my mom was hurt that none of them had ever tried to find her. Their excuse was that she had moved to the link. And it was difficult to track her down, while her biological mother said she had made a pact with her cousin, my adoptive grandmother, never to reveal the truth. The entire village had been told that my mom had died as a baby, so no one ever questioned it. For the past 10 years, my parents have lived in Greece, and my mom has built a close relationship with her siblings. However, her relationship with her biological mother has remained distant and formal. She never got over the fact that this woman kept all her other children but gave her away, likely because she was a girl. At the time, boys were valued more because they worked the fields and contributed to the family's income, whereas girls were seen as a burden. 2 years ago, I was able to move to Greece as well, since the parents who raised my mom left her a sizable inheritance. It allowed us to live comfortably, and honestly, I preferred the lifestyle here. We live in a beautiful place near the capital, and life is peaceful. Now, here's the issue. My mom's biological mother is now 96 years old and in very poor health. Her biological father passed away decades ago due to political circumstances. Her two older brothers, her sister lives abroad, have been taking care of their mother, but they are exhausted. Their wives are complaining, tensions are rising, and at a recent family gathering, they told my mom that she should also help take care of their mother because it's unfair that they are doing it alone. My father was furious when he heard this and told my mother to cut them off entirely. My mom refuses to take care of this woman. She doesn't love her, doesn't feel any emotional connection to her, and can't forgive her for abandoning her. My mom is not close to this woman's, and of course she has no legal claim to any inheritance from this family. However, she has truly enjoyed her relationship with her siblings and their children and doesn't want to lose that. She's feeling pressured, though, and she's deeply upset by their demands. When I found out, I was livid. How dare these people ask this of my mother, knowing full well that she was abandoned and that no one even attempted to find her. I feel like they're manipulating her, and she's unable to see how unfair this is. I'm getting married in a month to my fiancé, who is Greek and fully supportive of me, and I am seriously considering uninviting all of them from the wedding. I want to send a clear message that we don't want contact with them anymore. However, my mother is hesitant. She doesn't want to escalate things, even though she's hurting. I feel like she's not as attached to these people as she thinks. She's mourning the idea of the family she never had rather than truly loving these people. And I hate seeing her being taken advantage of. I always idealized Greece and the strong bonds of family, but now I see that's not always the case. I'm so disappointed by all of this. What would you do in this situation? Would you cut them off? Would you disinvite them from the wedding? How can I help my mother navigate this? This is a throwaway account because I'm very active on Reddit and don't want people to know my personal business. Edit. I forgot to mention something I think is important. My mom suggested they find a senior care facility to put her biological mother in. She even offered to pay a quarter of the price. My biological uncles were offended because they said it was disrespectful to their mother to put her in a nursing home, another Greek thing. Although they are generally financially comfortable, a quarter for a good structure can mean 400 to 500 person per link, by Greek standards, is enough. I think their idea of help is taking her biological mother home for a few months. That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, "Your mom doesn't owe her anything, and her siblings are being unfair. Cutting them off completely might be extreme if she still values the relationship, but she should set firm boundaries. For the wedding, if their presence would stress you or your mom out, uninvite them. If you'd rather keep things neutral, that's fine too. Do what feels right for you both." Our second commenter says, "I think your assessment of the situation is correct." Our third commenter says, "Your wedding, your choice. If you don't want them there, uninvite them. Tell them that due to their recent behavior they are no longer welcome to your wedding." For our last story, we have, "It started with crumbs in the bed. Now I, 26 female, resent my partner, 31 male, for working from home. I, 26 female, work in healthcare, meaning long shifts on my feet and over an hour of commuting each day. My partner, 31 male, of 4 years, is a software engineer who works from home. When I leave for work at 5:30 a.m., he's in bed. When I come home at 5:30 p.m., he's in bed. And when I finally crawl into bed at 9:30 p.m., exhausted, there are crumbs in the sheets. I've repeatedly asked him to stop eating in bed because it's gross, uncomfortable, and not great for his mental health. He agrees, says he'll stop, but he never does. The sheets have stains, and there are wrappers under the bed. He denies eating in bed, but the evidence is right there. The tipping point was the other night. I asked him to get out of bed so we could change the sheets because there was salsa verde smeared with chips in the bed. He said he was too tired and was just going to sleep. It was 8 p.m. Did I really have to beg for him to get out of bed so I could clean up his mess that I was clearly upset about? At first, it was just annoying. Now, it's turned into something bigger. I can't ignore the growing resentment I feel not just about the crumbs, but about our entire dynamic. I work way harder, make way less, and come home to see him having spent the entire day in the same spot. He has an hour-long lunch break every day and doesn't use that time to do any chores. I know it's not fair to compare jobs, but it's hard not to feel frustrated when my life feels so much more exhausting. I try to be understanding he has ADHD, and I know hyperfocus can be a barrier. But I'm struggling. I feel unheard, and the resentment is building. How do I get him to take this seriously? How do I bring this up in a way that actually leads to change? Is it unfair for me to expect him to pick up slack while working from home because that's what I would do in his position? Update. I made this unclear in the post, but he isn't sleeping in bed all day. He is working from 9:35 from bed all day. He has a nice desk set up, but doesn't use it. 2. He is my person and shows up for me in other ways, very romantic. Words of affirmation, dance in the kitchen sort of love. Which makes it hard. Is this him being a slob? Is this mental illness? How can we move forward with this? 3. We both have depression and are on meds. He is also on medication for ADHD. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, greater than he denies eating in bed, but the evidence is right there. So when you point out the evidence, what does he say? What is his explanation for how chips and salsa are all over the bed if he's not eating in there? Our second commenter says, ADHD has nothing to do with not changing behaviors when it affects your partner like it is in your situation. I have ADHD, and while yes, I'm medicated and it does help, I too, like other people, can make efforts to change my behavior and habits when it starts to negatively affect those around me. All he has to do is not eat in bed, not fly a spaceship. Our third commenter says, he can use post-it notes to remember chores, and frankly I would make up the couch or another room and stay there. He needs to see how this is affecting you or experience it. ADHD is not an excuse. Everyone since the beginning of time has had some issue, it is not an excuse. That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.